Hello, tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of Tile Money, the podcast where we discuss the business of being a tile contractor. My name is Luke Miller, a tile contractor myself here in the state of California. This podcast is brought to you by the NTCA, National Tile Contractors Association, and this episode is sponsored by Laticrete International. Today I have an epic guest, Tom Reber. He's got his own podcast. You've heard me talk about it before. It's been life-changing in my life. Tom, thank you for everything you're doing. The contractor fight is your message. That's your podcast. How are you today, Tom?
Luke, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on. And no one's ever used the word epic before when they introduced me. So I appreciate it. I kind of like that. I might have to get a tattoo of that on my arm or something. Epic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Welcome to California.
Yeah, man.
You're making your way west. You're in Colorado right now, right?
Colorado, yeah. I haven't been to California in a while. It's been a couple of years. I got to get back out there.
Yeah. Well, Tom, after work, after you're done coaching and helping people, what kind of stuff do you get up to over there in Colorado to ease your mind?
For about 17 years, I've coached high school football. And so that takes a massive amount of time. I'm literally year round at the high school that I'm the head coach at.
Oh, wow.
With the weight room and, involved and meaning, I'm in the off season, I'm there, 3 days a week for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And then right now in June, we kick off our summer program. So from here to November, it's pretty busy. I'm done with my normal work day, usually around 1:00 every day.
Okay.
So from 2:30, 3:00 on, I'm a football coach, but I love to hike. And I've played drums for 40 years, almost 41 years.
Yeah.
And then I'm also teaching myself bass guitar right now because
Nice.
I'm kind of a closet bassist. That's such a cool instrument, and I've always wanted to learn to play it. So I bought a bass and took my first lesson like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So
that's cool.
That's it, man.
Good for you. You. I know I did see you, I think on Instagram, maybe playing some drums about a week ago. It sounds like, I think that's cool.
Yeah. It's, I had played, I had gigged and did studio work for years and stuff like that. And then I had like a 4 or 5 year hiatus, and I just picked the sticks back up a few months ago.
Yeah.
And trying to get my chops back. So yeah, it's cool.
That's great. I love that first hobby of yours, coaching high school kids.
Yeah.
Did I catch that right? High school?
Yep.
What a great, not only a hobby and a passion, but a way to give back to the community. As a successful business owner, you can do that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I talk a lot, my show and my community and stuff. And I talk a lot about, the importance of making money.
Yeah.
And this is one of those reasons. Like, it's important for me to have an impact in the lives of people. I'm a coach at heart. And if I wasn't profitable, if my business wasn't profitable, if I didn't have some processes and systems set up and the right team behind me, there's no way I could do this. I'd be like one of those people that says, oh, when I retire, or when I do this, then I'll go do that. And we're not promised tomorrow. And so I've been really fortunate to have a lot of good people that have supported me through the years, my family and things like that have allowed me to do this. And ask me again come November, though, whether it's a good season or a bad season. I'm ready to quit coaching because I'm worn out. I'm tired, but I love it, and totally blessed to be able to do it.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So for those of my audience who don't know you, what is your number one message with the contractor fight?
Oh man, it's to bring respect and dignity back to the trades. Our society has been telling us for 4 decades or so that if you go into the trades, you won't be successful. College is the only way. And quite honestly, I did everything. I tried everything to not be in the trades because all the contractors I knew in my life were tired, they were dirty, and they were not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that was my worldview of the contracting world. And so I did everything I could to get out of it and ended up back in it. And so the contractor fight is all about, highlighting the people that are kicking butt. It's also about teaching us to fight the battle, the contractor fight. The fight part is between our ears. What goes on between our ears is going to lead to us being successful or not. And so that's really what our message is there.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's definitely something I can get behind, and that's awesome. It's something, I found your podcast, and it was one of those podcasts I had to go back to the beginning and listen to the whole thing. So,
What's
yeah,
funny is you bring up the beginning. I was talking to my team a while back, and I said, I think I need to go back and delete like the first 100 shows, and then I need to go onto my YouTube channel and delete the first, 50 videos I did and things like that, because they were bad. It's so funny when you go back and you listen to somebody. You're probably finding this in yours because what are you, 50, 60 episodes in now,
so,
something like that?
close to 50. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you listen to this latest one or the last couple you've done compared to your first, you can hear it in your voice. Like it takes a few dozen or 100 or so or whatever it is to kind of find your groove in this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sticking it out and listening to that many, man. Some of those were painful.
No, I mean, you do what you need to do, but I would encourage you to leave them because there was some powerful tips in there.
Well, here's what's funny. You and I, before you hit record, we were talking about, you have a niche audience here, right? And it's tile guys, and I have a history in the tile world
Yeah.
as well. When I started my podcast, it was just a general entrepreneurship podcast. And so I had all these non-contractors. Like I said, there was always this part of me was just trying to thinking the grass was greener outside of the contracting world.
Right.
And, when I started, and I was already coaching contractors and this and that, but I'm like, well, if I'm going to start a podcast, I want it to be for everybody.
Right.
And what's funny is it had to be close to 100, 103 episodes or something like that before, one of my mentors and guys on my team, Neil, him and I went to Breckenridge. We holed up in an Airbnb for a couple days, and we came out of there with the contractor fight. My show used to be called the Strongpreneur Podcast.
Yeah.
That was the original name. And we scrapped that and came out with the contractor fight and really decided to niche and help contractors. And since that's happened, the brand, the show, everything has absolutely exploded, because it gave a certain group of people a place to be, right? And that's what you've done here, and that's why it's so powerful. And so I guess the lesson for everybody, if I'm I'm coaching, right, is to you can't be everything to everybody. If you're going to do builder work, then do builder work. If you're going to be, residential dude, then, whatever it is, or specialize in something. What do they say? The riches are in the niches.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's easier to stand out as well. It's easier to market your business and all that stuff when you really pick a lane to run it.
It's awesome. And I even preach that even to tile guys. You think tile is a niche enough, but it's not enough. You could niche, or you could specialize in handmade tile. You could specialize in large format tile, specialize in commercial or residential, new construction. I mean, there's just endless possibilities. And it's not that you would never take a different job, but at least have the one main specialty that people call you for.
Can I answer a question that hasn't been asked that somebody will think of if they're
Definitely.
listening yet? They're going to go, how do I eat in the beginning when I'm trying to establish myself in that niche? I hear that all the time. People ask me all the time, Tom, I get it. I should just be an interior painting contractor or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I have bills to pay.
Yeah.
So what I always tell people is spend your time and money on your marketing and building your brand around the niche that you want to do. Yeah. The other leads are going to come in anyway.
Yeah.
You're still going to get those calls for builder work or whatever it is, and you will take those as you need them. But put your marketing like a sniper scope, put the crosshairs on the thing that you want, and everything you do on, here's my phone, pull my phone, everything you do on social media, everything you do should be revolved around that thing so that you become known as that guy for that particular thing. Okay. But the other stuff will come. So meaning if I just want to do kitchen remodeling, say I'm a remodeler, if I just want to do kitchen remodeling, then that should be all over my website. Yeah. Everything should be optimized for that. I should, but people are still going to see my sign. They're going to come across the website. They're going to pick the phone up. They're going to call and go, hey, do you guys do bathrooms? Yeah. And at that point in time, you can pick or choose whether you want to do the bathroom or not. But a lot of guys overthink this, and they think that, just because you pick a lane doesn't mean you never do another project outside of that lane again. It just means your marketing is focused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. What are your thoughts on giving something away for free? Let's say you landed a job. Let's say you landed a shower job, mm-hmm. and you want to start specializing in like little handmade mosaics. Okay. but nobody's hiring you, right? Because you don't really have a history. What would you say if you maybe offered, hey, I want to upgrade you. I'll do it for free. I just really want to like put a turtle in the shower. Would you say that's a good idea, Tom? Or
listen, it all starts with knowing our numbers, but we all have to get our foot in the door at some point.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to go into a project and give something away for free intentionally, that's way better than doing it on accident. So because you have a purpose behind it. So I'm all for it. I just think you got to, price the original job at a rate that's going to make you money. And again, when you price your work right, it enables you to have some freedom to add a little more for somebody or throw something in for somebody and make it a better experience for them. Because so what's that going to cost? If I'm going to do that, like the example you gave, what's that mosaic going to be?
Let's say it cost me 4 extra hours.
Yeah. All right. So call it $400, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're worth at least $100 an hour.
Yeah.
All right. So that $400 to me is marketing.
That's it.
The marketing expense. So that's how I'm cool with it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. That's my thoughts as well. You mentioned you have a history in tile. Was that your father?
Yeah. Yeah. My dad, he was a tile guy. My uncle's a painter.
Okay.
And I watched my dad. He started at about 6'1" and he died at about 5'9". He was hunched over his whole life. His knees were all big and knotty. And my uncle was still 6'3". And so I worked for both of them, but I ended up going to work for my uncle. That's how I got into the painting industry. But my dad, he did everything from like beautiful custom work to he had a run in the commercial world where I would labor for him. He would travel around the country. They'd go to like Nabisco and Wonder Bread and all these big factories. They'd lift up all the machinery. We'd rip out all the old floors. We'd put new tile in. And it was backbreaking, man. It was pretty hard. And he was a jerk. My dad was a jerk to work for. Loved him, but nobody ever wanted to work for him. So he knew how to crack the whip. He was probably the opposite of everything I tell people to be as a foreman on the job. And but he did great work. And I spent a lot of time in that industry, watching it, kind of with one toe in it and the rest out of it. But yeah, it was, I remember my wife and I, many, many years ago, we rented a house in Madison, Wisconsin, and he was in Illinois, and he drove up to retile our bathroom because it was an ugly bathroom floor in a house we were renting. He just did it for free, and it was beautiful. So anyway, that was him.
So how old were you when he first took you to the jobs?
Oh, 11, 12 years old. I was out there laboring and carrying stuff, and that continued. I actually, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I hit the road with him for a couple months with the company he was working for, and labored and some things like that, just to make some money and all that. But yeah, it was on and off for many years. Yeah.
So you were a Marine. Did that affect your mindset in any way when you went into business on your own?
Oh, absolutely. I would say I made every mistake known to mankind in business. I mean, most of the things that come out of my mouth are because I screwed them up. So the advice I gave is pretty much the opposite of what I've done through the years. I got out of the Corps and I was a little high strung for a while, and I was working on my uncle's paint crew. Oh, actually, this wasn't my uncle's. It was my own company at this time. Holy cow. And I had a guy not want to do something the way I told him to do it on the job, and I threatened to throw him out of a 3-story window. So that's not the way to lead your people, right? So I was a little high strung. But what I learned from the Corps, the biggest thing I learned from the Corps was when you're building a team, in my world, we call them FWs, F and winners, that. And to me, that's the A player. That's my version of the A player, employee or person. Well, A players, FWs, they want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing from the military. Like, you wanted accountability, you wanted recognition when you did your job, and then you wanted to have a lot of fun. And I think when you have those three elements, high expectations, but then when somebody wins, when they do their thing, pin something on their chest, bring them up in front of their peers and make a big deal out of it. And so that's probably the overall biggest lesson I've learned from the Marine Corps, was that leadership piece that apparently I had seemed to forgotten that day I threatened to throw the guy out the window, but,
Oh,
but I didn't throw him out the window. So
yeah. So the three things were accountability, and guys want to have fun. And what was the third thing?
recognition.
Recognition. They want to be recognized for their hard work.
Yeah, think about it, Luke. You know, you see guys walking around in their uniforms and they got stuff pinned on them.
Yeah.
You know, and who doesn't want something pinned on their chest? Who doesn't want recognition for something? And that's, you know, I think reward the behavior that you want more of is really what it comes down to. But also that high account winners want not just accountability. They want high accountability. They want to know, you know, how can I win? One of my best friends, Ted, he's back in Illinois. I grew up with him, and he's another football coach and things like that. He was interviewing for a job once, a sales position. And I remember there were a bunch of applicants, and he was telling me he got the job. And here's what happened. He goes through the interview. Guy says, do you have any questions? Ted leans forward and he says, yeah, is this the type of place that I can compete and win and beat people and earn what I'm worth? And this and that, like, was kind of his question, you know, am I going to have an opportunity to compete and win? Yeah. Guy hired him on the spot. And he said, normally when I open up, do you have any questions? They're like, is there vacation pay? Are there benefits? It was all about them. And for Ted, it was all about, you know, how can I compete? How can I be better? Where can I climb in this company? You know, that's what a winner is going to say to you. And so they want high accountability. They want to be pushed outside their comfort zone. They want to be challenged. And so it's not just accountability, but it's high expectations, high accountability. And the other cool thing is when you have an FW, you don't have to babysit them because they're already wired that way. They want to win. In fact, awesome. They hate losing more than they like winning.
Yeah. That's a really good message. I know in the Marines, they actually physically give you a pin, something that you can put on your chest or on your arm, correct?
Yeah.
My grandfather was a Marine, and I know he kept those pins and he kept those badges.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot. What are some pins that we as contractors can give our employees?
Oh, wow. Well, I think it ties back to what's important in the values of your company. You know, what are your non-negotiable values or qualities that are important to you as an owner?
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. In any company I will ever have, the number one trait that I'm looking for is a positive mindset. Doesn't mean you're happy-go-lucky. Doesn't mean everything's always sunshine and rainbows, but it means you overall have a demeanor of positivity. The next thing is you have to be highly competitive. If you're not highly competitive, I won't respect you. I don't like hanging around with people that are competitive. The other is respect. So those are the top three things. You know, like we're going to respect one another. We're going to respect our customers, our employees, the property. And so let's say you have, in fact, my old painting company years ago outside of Chicago, we gave recognition or a pin, as you want to call it, to one of our foremen. My business partner went out and did this at the time. He found a trophy of a dog on it. Mm-hmm. And it was this dog trophy, and we called it the Doberman Award, and we gave it to this guy Nathan in our company. And what had happened is the homeowner was working from home, and our guys were painting the whole interior of the house, and the homeowner was in charge of keeping the dog with him. And the homeowner was on a conference call, opened the door, was pacing around, lost track, and the dog got out, ran through paint trays, all this other stuff, ran onto a couch in a room we weren't painting, and carpet and all this other stuff. And Nathan grabbed the dog and handed it to another guy. Says, take the dog outside to the hose, wash the paws off. Grabbed another employee and says, get wet rags and keep everything wet. I'll be back in 15 minutes. He ran to like Home Depot around the corner, got a shampooer, came back. There was not one sign of paint on the furniture or the floors or anything.
Wow.
Because he like leapt into action. You know what I'm saying? And that was a incredibly respectful thing to do at the core. You know what I mean? Just really showed it would have been easy to point the finger. Hey, you let the dog out, whatever. And make a long story short, we recognized him in front of the company for things like that. So it could be that, or it could be, I think it was Tommy Mello I had on my podcast. He's in the garage door industry and stuff. And I think it was him that was telling me, like, for every good review you get as a foreman or whatever, on a job, or every time you hit a certain gross profit target or above or whatever it might be, you get one dart in the monthly company meeting at the end of the month.
Okay.
And then you throw the dart. For every dart you earn, you throw the dart, whatever it lands on, that's how much money you get.
I remember that.
And it really, now you have a lot of fun, you have a lot of recognition. There's the accountability is the numbers, right? The numbers are going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Like that. So I think it doesn't always have to be fancy, or it could be simple as getting your guy a gas card, or
Right.
that he's always wanted to take his wife to a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
But I would say give these things to your people in front of other people.
Yeah. I love this message, because so many of my friends, my tile guy friends, they say, I don't want to train somebody because I'm going to spend 5 years, 6 years, 7 years training somebody, and then they're going to leave me and go on their own and be my competition. And I say, they won't leave you if you're treating them right. They won't leave you if you're paying them enough money that they can have a house and a wife and kid, buy their kids stuff. They're not going to leave you. There's some people are kind of meant to be on their own, but so many of us, it was this way with myself. I wanted to work for somebody. I didn't want to go do all this, but I couldn't find somebody. I couldn't get above $20 an hour. I can't pay and have a family at $20 an hour here on the coast of California, in Monterey, California. That's a joke.
Right.
So what's the next sensible thing? You go out and get a license. You become your boss's competition. And most of us have no business doing that. And that's part of the problem we see today. That's part of the reason the trades are suffering, because the guys at the top, they don't know their numbers. They don't know how to pay their employees because they don't know how to get that money. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah. And back to guys leaving, people don't leave just for money, right? They leave because other needs aren't being met. And so back to the old Zig Ziglar quote, if enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. And so we had a guy, another one of our foremen, every 14 to 18 months, he'd come into the office and say, hey guys, I'm going to go off on my own and leave.
Yeah.
And we would say, man, we're really sorry to hear that. Let's make sure you're ready. And so we would sit down with him over the course of a couple weeks, and we would open up the books of the company. We'd show him our marketing plan. We'd show him what we're spending. We'd, teach him how to prices work. This is how many leads you're going to need. And we honestly, sincerely wanted to help him be successful.
Yeah.
And usually by the end of the first week of us sitting down with him and doing some stuff, he's like, I'm good for another year. I'll be here. And because he was really counting the cost. And so if you have somebody that's going to, first of all, you need to train them, because the worst thing, and somebody else way smarter said this, what happens if they stay?
Yeah.
Right? Like if they stay and you didn't train them, you're screwed. And so, so train your people, help them be successful, help them get the things that they want. Because unless you're really asking them what they want, you don't know. Don't assume that it's money. Don't assume that it's benefits. It might be, I knew one guy, his top guy was going to leave because he wanted Fridays off to have in the summer to go fishing for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so my client was like, what should I do? And I go, well, that's easy. Give him Fridays off.
Yeah.
I mean, he was truly like his top guy. He was an amazing dude at what he did. And they reworked the schedule. He worked 4 10-hour days and kicked butt, and the company stayed on track, and everybody got what they wanted, and he didn't leave. And so, but then the other thing is, here's the thing. If you're going to go off on your own, or you're off on your own right now, commit to learning the business side. Just 30% of what you've committed to learning the trade of tiling.
Exactly.
Right. If you just commit to that, and that's, that's why your show is here. That's my show is here. Between the two of us, we have hundreds of pieces of free content there for people that educate them and all this other stuff. Like, be a student of the business game, because, once you master, because business success is 90% between your ears and 10% math. That's all it is. And don't get emotional about the math. Don't be up late at night negotiating against yourself before you hit send on the estimate. Raise your hand if we've done that. We've all done it. Trust the math. And the most basic thing I teach people is, what's it going to cost you to put the tile in for Mrs. Johnson? Okay. And multiply it times at least 2, and that's what you charge. Yeah. If you just did that, I'm not even talking your overhead, because when you multiply by 2, So let's say it's going to cost me $5,000 to do this tile. I'm paying my guys and paying my material. It's $5,000. That's my cost of goods. Multiply times 2, I sell it at 10. That means when I pay the 5, I got $5,000 left. That $5,000 left goes to pay your overhead and your salary and your marketing and all those other things. And so in 95% of the cases with contractors, if you did the multiplier of 2 on your cost of the job, you're going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
Big time. And that's the fastest way out of the financial hole as well, is raise your gross profit.
Yeah, it is fast, and it's a simple message. That's one of the things I've loved and appreciate about your message. Is it's simple. Accounting can be so difficult at times, but and running your numbers. But I love your simple math, your simple approach to it, and it works. It really does. We wear so many hats as contractors, and like you said, we focus on the details. Especially, my audience is mainly OCD guys, right? Yeah. I mean, they're really perfectionists, and they're spending their lives. And after work, we're on Facebook groups talking about how to install things and talking about why things work the way they do. And we don't want to focus on the business. What could you tell me and my audience to fire us up? How do we motivate ourselves to focus on the business or do something we're dreading or don't want to do?
Well, we only grow through discomfort. Think of the weight room, right? You go lift, you exercise, whatever. You have to get uncomfortable to grow at anything. But the growth doesn't have to be huge and scary and painful, like you're getting a hand chopped off or something. It just, whatever your comfort zone is now, go 1 inch out of it tomorrow. And if you just do that over time, you get 1% better over time. It's some crazy multiplier. It's like 4,000% better in a year or whatever. It's something,
right?
When you do the compounding of that. So just get a little uncomfortable every day. But I would say the first place for somebody to start is learn how to sell. Most people don't know how to sell. They don't know their numbers and they don't know how to sell. They think selling is, and listen, I know you got OCD guys here. You got a lot of craftsmen here that are amazing at their trade. But guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. The customer at the end of the day doesn't give a crap what kind of grout you use. They don't care what kind of cut you did. Now, there's a very few people that actually do, but what we do is and it's it was the same in my industry. Like I thought everybody cared about all these technical things in the trade that we put so much attention to. But at the end of the day, they want an outcome. Yeah. So first, learn what the outcome they want is, and then price the work properly. And the worst thing we could do is go in there and get all technical right out of the gate going, we use this material and we do this. See, we fall back to these things because that's where our comfort zone is, because we're craftsmen. And that's where I want to challenge people to learn how to sell. Selling is about understanding the person's motive, why they're doing the project, why they're coming to you, why they picked the phone up and called you. What could be the worst thing that could possibly happen if they hired you to do the job? How are they going to, here's a great question to find a motive for somebody. Next time your phone rings and you're meeting with a customer, just take a minute and say, hey, listen, let's pretend, you're going to hire somebody to do this. When you cut the final check and hand it to them and they get in their van and they pull away, how are you going to know you hired the right guy? Guys, I'm going to go out on a limb. 10 out of 10 times, it ain't going to be a technical reason.
Yeah.
It's going to be a deadline was hit. You didn't leave a mess. I felt like I was respected. You didn't come and go. When you can learn to understand the motive behind this for people, that changes the game as a salesperson. And again, don't think you have to be a talker to be a salesperson. Silence is one of the best things you can do in the sales process when you're taught to do it right. So learn how to sell that. I'll tell you what, man, that will change the game in a heartbeat, especially with what you guys do. Like you gave me that example earlier of the upgrade.
Yep.
Okay. So this is how it would play out. I'd be like, hey, Luke, I got 1 of 2 ways that we can do this job here. The first is we can come in and install XYZ, your basic whatever.
Yeah.
And we're looking, all in, start to finish, $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah.
Actually, I screwed that up. Let me flip it. We can go crazy here with this handmade mosaic stuff. It'll be in a magazine. People are going to be clipping it and putting it on their Pinterest idea board and all this other stuff. It has to be $5,000 to $7,000. Or we could just go with our basic package, which is like, $3,500 to $4,500. Which conversation does it make sense for us to have? And they will tell you their budget 100% of the time. So guys, just implement that right now. you are automatically going to give yourself a raise, because I've seen it happen hundreds of times.
Wow. So you started with the high dollar amount.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning there? Yeah. Anchor high. Okay. Yeah. Anchor high.
Like, hey, based on what you've told me about what you're after here, you got to understand their motive first.
Yeah.
I got 2 things that might make sense to you. Can we talk about money now? Like, this is, we teach guys to do this on the phone. You can do this face to face. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We talk about money now. And they're like, okay, well, listen, we can put something in, and here, I'll show you some pictures or whatever on my website. We can put something in that'll blow your face off. Like, it'll be in magazines. You'll get write-ups about it. It'll be in all the tile industry magazines and this and that. But that's going to be $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 to pull that off. All right, to really do that. And I know that's not for everybody. So the other thing that I'm thinking for you would be this, and that's your basic thing. And you notice I said 10 to 12 grand, 3 to 4 grand, whatever. Don't ever just give one number at the top and bottom, because then they're locked into that one number. You want to give yourself a range. So this is bracketing. This is what we call bracketing. And then the cool thing, Luke, is let's say I know this shower is going to be $3 grand or $5 grand. Let's just say it's a $5,000 shower.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my bracket at 5,500 or 6 grand. And I'm going to say it's 55 to 6 grand or 6 grand to 7 grand or whatever. But when you share that in the context of the higher anchor, doesn't seem like a lot.
Right.
Here's the good news. Then when you go out there and you finalize it, you go, Luke, I got great news for you. What's that? Remember how I said it was going to be like 6 grand? Yeah. It's only $5,300.
Yeah.
Now they're like happy, because in their mind, they were okay with the 6 grand. So they got another $700 to spend.
Yeah.
And now you're going to upsell some things and all this other stuff, but it's all, you're taking control of the process by giving them control, in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
The way you have that conversation.
Yeah. Was there a reason you mentioned this is going to be magazine quality? Those words specific?
Because some people they're vain, right? They want to. I've had customers in the past that, Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams and all this other stuff. Every paint companies, every time there's a color of the year, she'd call us and go, "I need the new color." She wants to be with the Joneses. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people that are out there that have that, and this is not a bad thing. They just have a high ego. They want to show off their success. They want the best of the best. They're the people that, upgrade everything from the cars they buy to first class plane tickets and things like that. And so one of the biggest mistakes we make as salespeople is we read people's minds with our own head trash, right? We're projecting some things. We think 5 grand is a lot of money, where to some people it's not squat. It's like $5.
Yeah.
So, I've had people walk into a room before at a dive house, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get this job. And the guy will pull out $12,000 cash out of a freaking sock and hand it to me for a deposit. And I'm like, holy God, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, you never know. It is interesting though about the vanity thing and the magazine thing. I've actually I used to work with a designer, and he used that line like on every single job. He would come visit, and he's like, and he was always so overspilling with joy. Like when the customer was there, he would always be, "Oh, this is coming along so beautiful. This is amazing. We're going to put this in a magazine." Every single time. And I don't believe he ever put a job in a magazine. But what I did is I partnered. I purchased a website from the local people who actually printed the local design magazine. They have a quarterly magazine, and I literally did sell a job and got it in that magazine. And I kept being their customer, even though it was expensive. They designed my website and they did my marketing, and I paid a premium price, but I was in with them. And anytime I wanted it, not anytime, but I could say, "Hey, I have a really nice job. I really want to get it in your magazine. Can I get a slot?" You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you said that.
Well, remember, people buy for their reasons, not ours.
Yeah.
And the motive is either pain or pleasure.
Yeah.
So I imagine in your industry, tile industry, people buy for a lot of pleasure, right? They're building a house, they're remodeling a bathroom, whatever. Like, it's not like emergency services. Like, I got to unclog my drain or my basement flooded, so I got to call. That's like pain.
Right.
Okay. So the idea around talking about the magazine and things like that is to tap into that pleasure.
Yeah.
And here, last thing I guess I'll say in this is, money's like 7th or 8th on the list of why people buy from us or don't buy from us. And that's something that we got to get out of our brain. We got to recondition ourselves. with that. Money is just the easy go-to excuse when somebody doesn't hire you.
Yeah.
The real issue is they didn't feel like you were going to provide the value that they wanted. They didn't trust you for some reason, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. So money is 7th or 8th on the list of the reasons people buy. That's powerful. We need to get that in our head. Let's talk about this head trash a little bit more. My audience, I mean, I have a Facebook group. They, so many people in these groups, so many of us tile contractors, we say, I can't sell that in my area.
Yeah.
I can't command that price in my area. This is head trash. There's so much more head trash out there. Like, well, it's the going rate to sell. What would you say to people that are talking to themselves like that?
They're right. Is what you tell yourself you believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right. So here's the thing. Our thoughts become our beliefs. So whatever you're putting in your brain ultimately becomes a belief inside of you. That belief becomes an action. And the action gets you a result, good or bad. So let's take this. I can't get that in my area. If I tell myself that enough, I believe it. And then when I believe it, I act upon it by not raising my prices, by discounting when I shouldn't discount, by being a chicken when it comes to talking about price with people, whatever it might be, because our actions will never be out of conflict with our true beliefs.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's, but here's the thing. We're like on autopilot with our brains. Like we wake up, we have 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are on autopilot. Most of them are 90% of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday. This is what all the brain experts tell you. All right. And so imagine if you just took 5% of the thoughts you had every day, 3% of the thoughts you had every day, and made them intentional around, I am worth money. I am this, and all that other stuff. And when you start to change the story, you tell yourself the belief, and then the actions follow that. So, but listen, I hear it all the time. Can't get that in my area. Can't get that in my industry. Can't. It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
It really is. Like you can get it, and the only thing stopping you is, what you're choosing to allow into your head, and the other thing is that, but this comes from confidence, right? Like if we don't, you have to have the confidence to get through this stuff. And so that's the importance of your group and your Facebook community and mine and things like that. Start getting around other people that are speaking that language and this and that. You also brought up the going rate. That's a great one. Here's the thing. It's some crazy stat, like 80% of contractors across the board make like $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
Most of them don't have a retirement. Most of them can't build a team. Most of them don't know their numbers. Most of them are selling their work too cheap, and they're racking up debt and all this other stuff. And most of them are pricing their work by the going rate.
Yeah.
All right. So the worst thing you could do is price it by the going rate, flip it and go, what's my math say that I need to be? How can I be an uncommon contractor? One of my business partners in our sales academy, he's in the water feature industry, frickin' crushes it. Like for years, he's crushed it. Now he built and sold a big company for millions of dollars years ago. And then he got into the pond industry, and he's never paid himself from year one. He paid himself like $200,000 in his business. And by the way, he's never done more than like $1.6 million in revenue.
Okay.
All right. And for 15 years, he's paid himself between $200,000 and $600,000 a year himself.
Wow.
Okay. And he'll tell you that one of the biggest reasons that happened in the early days is he built his business in a vacuum. Now, he went to his industry for technical help and understanding the craft and those things. But when it came to the money and all that other stuff, he stayed as far away from everybody as he could. And that, he'll tell you, was one of the things that actually helped him be so successful financially. So please avoid the going rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. And sometimes I've heard stories about guys who have gotten like 80%, profit out of their business because they misheard a coach who was saying to shoot for 18 and they thought he said 80.
That's right. Yep. Well, one of my other business partners who started as a client of mine, he, what did I tell him? I told him when I was coaching him years ago, I said, yeah, you got to price your work for a 50% gross profit. Somehow, and so then like 2 months later, we're going over his numbers, and he was averaging like a 65 or 70% gross profit.
Yeah.
And I go, dang, you're crushing it here. He goes, well, I just did what you told me. You said get like a 60 or 70% gross profit. He misheard me.
Yeah.
And so again, this comes back to what you believe is going to happen.
Yeah.
He was just like believing that, hey, this is what's supposed to happen. So
yeah, I love it. And that brings us to recently you've been talking about the I am statements.
Mm-hmm.
You've been saying these. What are they, and how can that help me?
Man, this goes back to what I said before about our thoughts.
Yeah.
I left to my own devices, the destructive stuff that goes through my brain sounds like this. I'm stupid. I'm not impressive enough. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not capable of XYZ. Like we have this recording that just plays, and how it got there, that's a different story. We're born, we're molded, we're raised a certain way, and all this stuff ends up here.
Yeah.
And I start my day every day writing down on a piece of paper 3 or 4 I am statements. And sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. But what I've noticed is this is an example of me taking control of my thoughts to become my beliefs. So one of the statements that I'm pretty regular with is I'm a magnet for money and success. Okay, I'm a magnet for money and success. And here's what's funny. When I'll write it down, and I write it with my hand because there's a connection to the brain. I'll read it several times throughout the day. Yeah. All these affirmations, I'll read them out loud. Sometimes I'll stand in front of the mirror and yell them at myself for a minute or two, and I'm a nut, right? Here's the thing. When I do it, I make more money. Yeah. Like money just kind of finds its way to me. I was I started writing this down a few years ago. I'm a magnet for money and success. And I'm out on the football field one day, and I look down, there's 50 cents. And I'm like, look at that, money found me. And I picked it up. Okay, I was just sitting on the football field. Yeah. So then a week or two later, I'm writing it down, I'm reciting this stuff. And then I go, I'm pacing. I was at football. I was on a phone call pacing around the building, and I went back around this side of the building where I never go. Nobody ever goes back there. And there's a $20 bill on the ground, and I find $20. So then I'm like, I'm a magnet for $10,000. I just started throwing out bigger amounts and things like that. And I kid you not, within like 3 or 4 days, I picked up, another client that was, way more than $10,000 for my business over the course of the year and things like that. And I just noticed that what you tell yourself, you find opportunities for. There's a thing called the RAS, the reticular activating system, that's in our brain, that basically is, if you tell it what's important to you, you'll find more of it. It's that simple. So when you're shopping for a certain color car and a model of a car, you see them all over the place now. They've always been there, but now your mind actually sees them when they were always there. And it's the same with the money and anything else that you're trying to overcome in your life. So program your brain.
Yeah, I love it. I've been looking into this myself and starting to implement this in my life, and it's made a big difference. So I encourage anybody, listen to what Tom's saying. It's real stuff. If you're struggling with these thoughts, like you're dumb, or you can't make money, or you can't sell at a point, at a price point, start telling yourself. We all know the people in our lives that had the Midas touch. The reason they had the Midas touch and things worked out for them no matter what was because their parents or their system, people around them, told them that they were successful. They told them that they could be anything they wanted to be. That's the reason they succeeded. It wasn't anything else. They believed it. So we have to start, if nobody's telling us that, we have to tell ourselves that.
So I have 2 clients of mine in the same city, same industry. One of them, and they're about the same age businesses and all this other stuff. One of them is a constant roller coaster of up and down struggle.
Yeah.
Great guy, love him to death. The other guy is pretty much on a steady climb. Life is always good, business is always good, and this and that. The difference, the only difference, like comparable work, all this other stuff, the only difference is what the one guy says to himself every day. And it's this stuff here, because he grew up in that environment of personal development and, mindset stuff. And that is the only difference. They use the same sales system. They like it's priced very similarly. And one is struggle, one is success. Most of the time.
Yeah.
So
powerful stuff. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for your time. This has been a great interview. I know my audience is going to benefit from this. We've got to get you back in the future. Where can people find you? Where are you at?
First of all, I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a blast talking to you and watching you do what you're doing here with your show and your industry. Anyone wants to get in touch with us, they can just head to thecontractorfight.com or type it into Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they'll run into me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple. All right. And you're a business coach, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. We have several programs that, meet every need of somebody's business, from free to gobs and gobs of money, just depending on where they're at. So,
all right.
And the amount of involvement and help and implementation that they want. So we help contractors all over the world, make more money, get their time back, and finally, bring that respect and dignity back to what they're doing.
Awesome. Love it. And you have two podcasts. One is called The Contractor Fight. What's the second one called again?
We have another one called Contractor Sales Academy Podcast.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yep. And that's like it is. It says it's all about the mindset of sales. So
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, well, enjoy the rest of your day there in Colorado.
I will, Luke. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, Tile friends. Talk to you soon.
All right. Was I right or what? That was an epic interview. I knew it was going to be, and Tom did not disappoint. I was looking forward to this. I knew his mission, and I'm glad I was able to bring it to you, my audience. If you have not heard him talk about that before, how he's fired up and he wants and desires to bring respect back to the trades. And isn't it cool that he has a history with tile, with his father being a tile setter, and all the way down to towards the end where we were talking about the power of the daily affirmations. Now, listen, if somebody like Tom is doing daily affirmations, how much more should you and I be doing these things? We have to tell ourselves that we're going to succeed. We have to tell ourselves that there's enough money out there, that our customers are looking for us. This is powerful, real stuff, guys. All right. So we've got some manufacturer news now, and this is sponsored by Laticrete. And I want to welcome Jack Mullins to the Laticrete family. Jack is over there in the Gulf Coast region. He's actually responsible. He's the technical sales rep for the whole territory of Alabama, and that's territory number 186. And so he's responsible for that state of Alabama. And I talked to Jack earlier here on the phone, and it's actually his second week with Laticrete now. And he's excited. He's pumped up. He has a history with tile. Jack's father is a tile contractor. So Jack has a rich history with tile, and he's spent years now as a distributor representative in Alabama and East Tennessee. So, what a great thing that he's has this rich history, and he's going to be a very good asset to Laticrete. So if you're down there in that area, reach out to Jack and develop a relationship with him. He said that he's looking forward to getting to know everybody and developing these relationships. He's a great guy. He enjoys motorcycles and golfing and working on old cars. So can't go wrong there. All right, friends, we've got another Tile Money tip, and this is, of course, with Ron Nash, sponsored by Laticrete. And we are talking about negotiations and discussing on how not to give a quick price.
The planning purpose trip. Okay. So here's what happens. People become too confident and they wind up, they wind up shooting pricing just real fast. Okay, hey, I want you to go ahead and add sealer to this. Okay, sealer's going to cost an extra $200. Okay, you shoot pricing too quickly, and you don't have an opportunity to find out what they actually want. Okay, so this is why I always tell people, make your first concession reluctantly or slowly. Okay. And if you make your first concession slowly, that And I'm not talking so slow that it becomes a social issue,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying slow yourself down before you deliver pricing.
Yeah.
And try to make pricing as much of an event as you can push. What I mean by that is there are some guys that get frustrated by that, and understanding the personality profiles of each person you're selling to is very important. Is this guy a driver? Does he like to get the bottom line up front? Does he like to get, things done? Or is he an analytical? Does he like to see the details? Does he want to know that there's this type of waterproofing used? Does he want to know the specification really deeply? There's a whole podcast I could do on analyzing a person's profile and how to structure your deal in order to maximize on that profile. But the long and short of it here is make sure that you're planning your trips and your negotiations with purpose. Okay. So your counter tactic in this particular situation, before shooting pricing too quickly, is just asking a lot of questions. I like to open up questioning like, I'm going to ask some stupid questions, and I don't mean to offend you. I'll say that all the time.
Okay.
Hey, just to make sure that my spec is correct, I just want to walk through it with you. I know it's going to take 10 minutes or so. I apologize for that, but I just want to make sure that I have you covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's nice.
It's safe for you as well, because you will find out things. Also, this is where you ever seen that picture of the dinghy that says original contract and the yacht that says change order?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that a good person at this, they have the yacht.
All right, friends. I hope you enjoyed another one of those Tile Money tips with Ron Nash. I'm keeping them brief on purpose. It's easier to retain this information in the bite sizes that it is. So I hope you're enjoying that. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast and you're not part of the Facebook group and you're on Facebook, I encourage you to go on Facebook and search Tile Money Group and join us. We're having daily discussions. They're very lively, and we focus on the business discussion, just like this podcast. We don't really get into the technical aspects of installing tile. I also have a weekly newsletter, and right now we're talking about how to sell yourself over the phone. So if you want to get in on that, go to tilemoney.com and subscribe. All right, talk to you next week. Hope you're having a great week and a profitable one at that.